What's going on, guys, and welcome to yet another episode of the Snapchat. We're going to be closing out April with a big one. We have Hydra Stomper. The Snap Packs are on the way. We have a big OTA. Alex, how you doing today, man? What's going on? And welcome to yet another beautiful week of Marvel Snap.
I'm doing great, buddy. And you know what? It is a beautiful week here in Canada as well. The sun is finally out. The kids are playing outside, which is great. I got the notes done for the Snapchat in like peace and quiet, because usually there's like screaming and yelling and like kids body slamming each other or toys into the ground over our heads. I'm sure if you've been listening for a while, you hear like the noises of like stuff hitting our walls and stuff while we're recording. You can actually hear right now. But what I will tell you is that they're outside. And it's been fantastic. Listen, by fantastic, I mean like it's 19 degrees Celsius, and it feels great.
Listen, I just got back from looking at a couple new cars. I'm finally gonna. I've had a Jeep forever, for a long time, for like 8 years, and it's not the most kid-friendly car, and so I'm gonna be grabbing a new one. And bro, I was there with my son today, and I could only think of one memory being there with my son, and it's the classic Alex. If you guys don't know, if you're newer listeners, Alex, what happened when you brought your kids over to test out some new Kias?
Oh no, okay, so I think you're talking about when we went to the Toyota dealership, and my son, he had etched into the side of our vehicle with a rock math questions, because I guess he was using it like an iPad or something. And then so when we were trying to figure out like we were going to buy a new minivan, we brought our Kia Sorento 2016 baby all the way into Toyota to get like evaluated as a trade-in. And the guy was looking at it, he's like, "Oh, those are like deep scratches." I'm like, yeah, they are, thanks. And then while we're are you talking about the one where my son pooed his pants in the dealership?
Yeah, bro, of course I'm talking about the poo in the pants in the dealership. That's my favorite one. That's
There's so
classic.
many stories, but like
that's a classic.
Like that's a good callback.
That's a coach classic, man, for sure. No, I love it. Like any parent, if you have kids, man, I tell you what, guys. Like I remember going at Ben Brode. He had a Tesla, and I go and I'm like, "Man, it's a cool Tesla, man." And I like look on the side, I'm like, "Bro, what happened? Like, what are you doing to this thing?" Like, and he's like, "Bro, those are my kids. Like, those are they treat it like an army worn vehicle. I mean, it looks like it went through Nam, and it's just part of the job. It's part of being a dad, right?" But I couldn't stop thinking about the story of you there. Anyway, man, but we have a cool one, man. We got the Snap Packs coming out. This is going to be a kind of a weird week because it's like half and half, right? So like the beginning of the week, we've got the traditional spotlight system, and then you know what? If you don't update your game, you can keep it for a little bit, and bam, we then have Snap Packs officially coming to Marvel Snap. So we're going to talk about today. Is that going to be enough? What is that going to look like? Alex, we know what we're talking about over here. What are we talking about on your side of the Snapchat?
Cozy, on my side of the Snapchat, we're going to be discussing Strange Supreme and whether or not it makes the cut to be the card you want to pull from the caches before the next set of Snap Packs come out, or next set of Snap Packs. They're not here yet, but until the next week. We're also going to be talking about the best cards in each individual Snap Pack to see what are the chase cards you're going to want to go after. And then, as always, our Snapchat mailbag.
Well, buddy, we've been here before several times. We have a move card that comes out. We get slightly excited for the card. Actually, we get overly excited, and then every time it does not live up to what it had, what we thought the potential was. But you know what, Hydra Stomper, you in particular were pretty excited about this one in the pre-evaluations, and I am, but I also am a bit hesitant about a couple things. Now, I will say that let's go break down the card, but I will say that there's some things I realized about the card that I like now even further looking into it. But we've got a 3-cost, 2-power card. 3 cost is the name of the game typically for these move cards. Ongoing, plus 1 power for each time one of your cards moved this game. Hydra Stomper. Don't talk about synergies, but star ratings. What do you got?
You know what? I'm going to stay at my 4.5. I know it's high.
It's high.
I know I'm really high compared to others. I might drop it to 4. The only reason why I'm considering dropping it to 4 is because I don't want to talk synergies and stuff, but I want to talk about a specific problem that I think Hydra Stomper has. One very specific problem. And it's that the best version right now of Move, a very highly competitive deck, is Move Bounce. And I don't think Hydra Stomper needs to be there. Like,
I think there are cards that do better.
It doesn't go in the best deck.
Yeah, and there's cards that are 3 costs. Like, just at the top of my head, there's cards that I would play in Move Bounce that you could get the bounce effect off and have value there still as well, like Sage or Sage, exactly. Right? So like that, agreed. I will say this. I want to open with this. This is one thing I really like about Hydra Stomper, that at first, if you're not like, I don't know, just doing the math, the ongoing ability of it is super interesting because I love, for once, we have this move card that can be played later on in the game. That to me is really interesting because, you know, so many times we have like Hercules, Madam Web. If you don't draw them, you're screwed. Or you have to get them out and then you have to do a bunch of stuff and then maybe you get the value. I do like that this thing has the value after the fact. 3-2 is a pretty low stat though. So like getting a lot, you know, even 4 moves, which is easily plausible, is a 3-6. So it's not like it's going to go like crazy over value, right? At times, but there are cards in different situations, you know, that you can definitely get things going crazy. At times I'm like, oh, it'd be cool, man, if this was any cards moved. Then that way it's like, all right, if you get the matchup and it's a little bit of a counter move card or whatever. Plenty to counter this thing. I think we see a lot of clog this week. I think we see a lot of things that can just kind of hurt move decks in general. Move decks do have a lot of weaknesses to them. That's one thing we know. I think we're seeing more and more that Snap is a game of counters at time, right? And so we see that on new card weeks more than ever. But yeah, man, I'm gonna go middle of the pack. I think I'm gonna go just with that even 3-star. I think it has a lot of potential for it. I think there's a lot that can go against it though. And my worry always is, you know, we're long away from where Vulture decks are like awesome. That mid-range value, the tempo play. And I feel like it's not a Sauron issue when like he was a 3 cost, but 3 is just, it is a tough bit of cost to fit in there. Like I like this guy better as a 2-1. I would have loved him as a 2-1.
Yeah, so basically exactly what Goliath is. I had that exact thought where like if we want a moving scalar, a moving ongoing scalar, almost every single archetype has one. You have Morbius, you have Goliath would be the most recent example. Yep. And they have the 2 slot in common, whereas Hydra Stomper is a 3. Now, the reason why I like, okay, so when I said like 4.5, the thing is like, I definitely guarantee that this is going to be a good individual card. Like individually, you're going to see very high power outputs from Hydra Stomper. The number is going to get very big. But the question is that number getting big enough to warrant a new form of playstyle for Move? Because Move, despite being good, is never really meta relevant because it's just a playstyle that most people just don't want to engage with. Yeah. Remember, we recently had nerfs to Dagger. We had nerfs to the Frigga Human Torch shell, which is the balanced move shell, which now is actually even using Toxin, thanks to the Toxin buff in the OTA, which we'll talk about later. But like, those decks and those high-performing decks, which are generally high elo decks, they don't want Hydra Stomper. And so you're going to be leaning on decks that are very traditional, like, okay, I Heimdall everything. Hydra Stomper gets +7 off 1 Heimdall play, or whatever it is. And then, you know, Hercules kicks someone else. And, like, there's synergistic cards. And Hydra Stomper is going to be a stats machine. But is that enough for an archetype that generally has not really broken the ceiling of Marvel Snap's kind of, you know, just play rate? People just don't want to play Move.
Yeah, well, like we talked about that how many times on the Snapchat. We have things like Move Bounce and whatnot that are in the meta, and people still don't play them, right? Because of the complexity. I mean, Phoenix Force was a great example of that. Like, I think me and you specifically avoided Phoenix Force for a long time, right? Because you're like, I just don't want to mess. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I'd rather just play big card, big win. And you're right. It's a lot, you know, it's to put it in something like Rivals terms, I think the best way to say it is like, you could play Scarlet Witch that auto him and does, you know, good DPS, or you could go with Spider-Man and learn complexity and crazy stuff and do a little bit better, right? So like the skill ceiling, I think is what the term is here for move decks, is very high and the reward is high if you can do the payoff. But a lot of people like more simplistic approaches. I do think that Hydra Stomper in traditional move will kind of make his way in there. Move Bounce, not so much. I'm going to be curious what he does on that front. You know, so there are some really cool vehicles to get him going. You know, I love the idea of these cheap little one-cost plays, like going back to even Aranya, Ghost Spider, and getting small buildups and not going for like the big home run play. You know, the Human Torch that's a billion power, the Dagger that's like just the classic, like, hey, what happens if you Iron Fist a Vulture? You get that going, you have good tempo play, and you just kind of finish up. You know what I mean? Like, Professor X doesn't stop that anymore. Storm is different, like from the old days almost, right? Like, what does that look like? I'm going to be curious how that deck performs in this kind of environment that we're in.
No, absolutely. That is exactly where Hydra Stomper is likely to shine, right? And I guess what I want to say is that, like, even though I'm relatively high on the power of this card, I want to be very clear. When I say the Hydra Stomper is like a 4 or 4.5, I think that that is its individual power level as a card being released to Marvel Snap. But I'm not going to say that you should go out and get it day one. Like, that's not, because if you're not a move player, or if the move shells that are using Hydra Stomper, you're missing Hercules, you're missing other cards, or you just don't want to play that style of deck, then Hydra Stomper is not going to go anywhere else. No. You know what I mean? And so, like, it might be a really good card that's actually not worth getting because it is niche, but its archetype is like, I can't think of the word, polarizing, maybe is the word. Where there's people that play it and people that like it and people that just don't want to engage with it. It's like Toxin, for instance. In the OTA recap we'll talk about, but like Toxin, I don't even think needed a buff. But he got it. Maybe it's like, hey, we just need to give this archetype something to get people back on it. And Hydra Stomper is an infusion of power to a very traditional style of move that just doesn't see play anymore. It almost reminds me of Starbrand's release, where Starbrand came out and was it going to resurrect Sauron? And it didn't. But the problem wasn't Starbrand. It was Sauron. It was the archetype enabler that had to get changed, and now it's actually a top 10 deck. So with Hydra Stomper, I don't know if the stats or if Hydra Stomper is the problem for that shell. It might very well be that Aranya needs a buff, or Madam Web needs something, or you know what I mean? The supporting cast needs to help Hydra Stomper perform.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's going to be the main thing to look out for. It is those kind of, we're starting to see that way more. And I think when we started Snap in the early days, like we didn't really like identify that there's these like key cards that really are the engine of these decks. And now it's obvious when they are. It's funny too. You brought up the OTA. I mean, dude, on the OTA, we'll talk about it. That's our next subject. We'll get to it. But it's like, you look at Scream. Okay. You can tell that they tamed her down a bit because of that potentially. And then, to your point too, they tamed a couple other cards that are going to have some impact with Hydra. I want to talk about one place that could be interesting with him that I'm not sure. You brought it up last time. I thought it was a good take when we did start talking about him as a card. But also, it's like not just her, but the plethora of cards like her. I think it's interesting that we do have a chance that there's like a Nightcrawler, Jeff, Silk. Maybe that's a control deck. Maybe it's not. But like this idea of like just a bunch of value cards that can move, plus this guy that can be slapped at the end, because then it makes sense to have a 3 cost that you could play even on turn 6, because you have all these other, very low cost cards, and all of a sudden you have Silk jumping around, you have Nightcrawler go, you have so much movement happening, and then you're playing down a Hydra Stomper that's maybe a 3/9, 3/8. That's a world where I think he could work in more of these plug and play styles.
Absolutely. And I think that one of the things that this OTA did very specifically in relation to Hydra Stomper, I know we're all over, we're like merging the two topics a little bit, but I think that Scream is going to be more targetable with Red Guardian. And so as a result, coming into this next week, if you're going to be running a Hydra Stomper Silk deck, which I think is going to be exactly where I'm going with it.
100%.
You're going to want to have Red Guardian in that shell because Scream comes down on turn 2, you pump it with Red Guardian easy, right? Yeah. And then you get to do your moves.
Playing the counter in the deck archetype is always like what you do move 1 on release, because people are going to play it, and then you can also feast off a little bit. Obviously, we spoke of Heimdall being the big time finisher. We've got the kind of movers deck. We have a bounce deck that we don't think it'll fit in, but that's definitely a home that it can be played in. We have cards that I don't think are going to ultimately end up being in there, like the Werewolf by Nights. I think is a very cool concept. You got 2 3s, but again, you could play them late. So it's like, okay, that's kind of a cool aspect. And there's plenty of low on reveals. They toned down Captain America, Falcon, but it's, you got that shield that can get a little bit of movement going right off the bat as well. There's a lot of ways to get some movement going, not to mention locations too, just being this guy's, really ally. So again, I like Hydra Stomper. I think he's got a lot of cool things. It's funny that he's coming out on the week of snap packs, right? We'll talk about that a bit more as well. But anything else here on Hydra Stomper you want to highlight?
Yeah, I'll say that like cards like Jeff and Vision, like traditional good cards I haven't seen much play, might benefit here. It's also worth noting that Captain Marvel, I wonder how this interaction will work. If she moves at the end of the game, does it actually +1 Hydra Stomper still, even though the game has ended? And will it actually account for the +1 on Hydra Stomper in the victory kind of calculation? You know what I mean? I think that's kind of notable. It's also worth noting that it's very good with the Spotlight Cache cards, in Aranya and Madam Web are both the Spotlight caches. And I believe you will have 48 hours before you're forced to update your client to the Snap Pack model. I think that's the intention of Second Dinner. I don't know if it's been officially communicated yet, but just a heads up, if you want to use your Spotlight keys to get Hydra Stomper, I think you have 48 hours to do so before you are forced to update your client. So that's something you can keep an eye out for. But overall, like I think this is going to be a good card. I just wonder if the archetype is going to be able to kind of rise.
You've got Madam Web, you've got Hercules. You have these like bit more of like investment for greedy power in a sense of like mega valuing the Hydra Stomper. You know we're going to see a little bit of that. Who is more likely to make the cut, Madam or Hercules?
You know what, Hercules, the nice thing about the Hydra Stomper is because it's ongoing, Hercules comes down on 3 and then activates your moves throughout the game, and you can close, well, even on turn 5, for instance, you can play your Hydra Stomper and get the ongoing power, then Heimdall into whatever, then Hercules kind of resets everyone. Hercules' randomness is kind of weird, but I can see Hercules kind of being the play on 3.
So that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, there's a world. You start looking at some of these interactions, like we're gonna call it easy, but let's say 1 is like Nightcrawler, okay? 2, you've got Silk. You play Hercules on Silk, okay? So Silk moves once. Then you just try to do as much movement as you can between Silk, Hercules, and whatever else you have up your sleeve here, right? Whether that's, Vulture and activated cards, or this is more of your traditional deck. You would have to think with Hercules, with Silk, with, let's say, Nightcrawler and like, I think that Hydra Stomper could get to some pretty serious power. Like if that curves out the right way, I like it because, the thing that's bad about Hercules is you don't know where he's going to end up putting the cards or whatever. Well, cool. At the end of the game, you have this masked up 3-10 whatever, and then you can have that as your win condition on the lane that you need it.
You know what's funny to think about though? Like, Vulture's a 3 cost. Vulture gets really big. So is Hydra Stomper really chasing power, or is it chasing the fact that you can play that power late, whereas Vulture can't? Because I think Vulture will outperform Hydra Stomper power wise, right?
For sure. 3-9, then goes to 3. Yep.
Interesting.
I think it's definitely that. It's the fact that it's ongoing. Like, dude, if Vulture was an ongoing card, like, hello, good night. Like, that is a good point. It's not that you're chasing power, it's that you could place power later, and I think that's pretty advantageous for it. I mean, and dude, how do we not talk about, like, I'm telling you, man, the Heimdall plays that you can get off with this card, this is where you're going to obviously have to play them earlier, but man, you go like Hydra Stomper and Dagger on turn 5, bro. That's a big chunk of cheese coming down. That's a lot of power.
It's a great variant, by the way. I know that's not what you wanted me to comment on, but this is a great variant.
I appreciate it. I do. This was one of those cards that I bought that I was like, you know what? It was like $100 pack or whatever. God. And I was like, yeah, it's never coming back. And I want to be one of the only ones with this Heimdall. And then they did the whole collector's vault stuff. Anyway, yeah. So I think I don't want to undermine Heimdall finally having like a really cool combo play that we've more or less been waiting for. I mean, yeah, Vulture and all that can do that, but I just feel like he's cool because he can hold down yet another lane that you can set up early.
But it is still tricky with this like Heimdall move play. It's like it's hard to put power right.
Yeah,
like it's like, you know what I mean, and that's kind of the tricky thing. Like maybe Hercules can display something, but
and
it's really hard to do that. Heimdall itself, yeah.
Like, that's the thing. It's like the Sauron play. They're all 3: Vulture, Hercules, Hydra Stomper. If a Hydra Stomper was 2, it would be so perfect, man. I would love it.
I'm sorry, bro, but does the Bifrost only go left? Like, I don't get it.
I guess so, bro. I guess like, he's a god, but he doesn't just doesn't know how to go right. It's a bummer. Yeah, and we all know who's definitely not going to get play with Hydra Stomper coming out. 2099. I just wanted to bring him up.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to bring him up every once in a while. We kind of forget that he exists.
Just remind us that he's in the game. Other than that, looking around, really not that many other cards that you'd want to go ahead and get him in there. I do want to give my monthly, yearly Doctor Strange needs to be better in this game. Shout out to Second Dinner. Just want to pop that in there real quick if I can. Anything else to close out? Are you ready to move on, my guy?
I'm ready to move on. I mean, we've been borderline talking about the OTA recap the entire time.
Yeah, right.
Somehow.
Let's go ahead and talk about the OTA. So, guys, OTA, Alex and I, yet again, we called some changes. We expected some changes. Now, some of these aren't so bold. We had a feeling, my friend, that Captain Carter would. So we knew an adjustment was going to happen to Captain Carter. We knew she was way too bad. Like, there's one certainty in life: death, taxes, and if a season pass card's not good, they're going to buff it. They're going to buff it soon. Infinity Ultron. We knew that was going to happen. We also called the nerf to Sam Wilson, but we just thought the power wasn't going to be a big enough difference, but they did go that route. So Captain Carter 4-3 to 3-2. We could start there. Clear winner. I mean, like, that is the most obvious winner that you get in terms of where you could play her, the value that you could play her, the way she works. Like, this was an OTA that buffed like 10 things for the card, even though it was just 1 cost down, 2 power.
Yeah, it was one of those things, like, quite simply, when we were going into the season, it was hard to establish how hard the macro consideration of Agent Carter was, or Captain Carter, I should say, sorry. Like, was it going to be hard to set up the board position as it was? You had Dum Dum Duggan as well, which was going to come, and again, it was another card. We have another card coming out in the future, which we'll talk about next week, right? Which is all focused on, like, you know, where you are on the field of play, and it was more than maybe they anticipated. That macro consideration was more. It was a little more awkward to set it up, and it makes all sense that it goes to a 3 cost. And it's a better card, but it's still, like, not insane. You know what I mean? Because it relies on its power to be impactful, and naturally in Silver Surfer it's really good, but you'd hope it can, you know, get beyond just Silver Surfer.
Do you want more or less of these, like, play him for the back line, front line kind of stuff?
I don't love it. I don't think
either.
it's like a great design. Like, it's fine. It's okay. It's not like insulting or anything, but I don't love it. No.
Isn't it funny, whether it be movies, video games, whatever, that, like, original designs are always peak, and then they try to add stuff, and usually, like, I like the old stuff. Like, we looked at Activate that way. We've looked at, you know, this new mechanic. It's like, well, just give me the good old fashioned on reveal ongoing. Like, that's what stands the test of time. I actually saw a Captain Carter remade in Oblivion Remaster. I have to say, bro, as gamers this last week, we feasted. Tell me, Alex, that you walked the plains of Tamriel and of Oblivion.
I did. As soon as it was announced, it was such a great shadow drop too. What I did was I made my character Wood Elf Thief.
I knew you were gonna be a Wood Elf. You have Wood Elf written all over you. Can I tell you something though? I'm usually a Wood Elf. Okay, here's the thing, bro. I ban myself from picking Dark Elf, Wood Elf, and Britain. Those are the 3 I typically pick. I
always pick a Britain mage. I've always been a Britain mage. I decided to change it up and go Wood Elf this time.
So I went High Elf, man. If you guys don't know Oblivion, first of all, download the game. It's incredible. Get lost in the sauce. It's, to me, I think core staple. The Elder Scrolls series have always been the most, as a hobby, video games has always been a way for me to escape reality and reset right before it was my job. That has been recaptured. Bro, I was trying to explain this to my wife, how living nostalgia through a game and through a moment of a game is one of the most, like, insane things that we get to do as gamers. Like, something will happen in Oblivion and it'll put me back in the past of when I played it when I was younger. And it's from the music to maybe even dialogue. Like, it's so cool. The music. The
music brought me back in time. Like, that opening sequence where the camera pans around the city and stuff, and the music is so incredible. The voice lines were coming back to me as well. And time will bring you back in time. You know what it did for me? It brought me back to the time where, like, I remember having Oblivion on my PC, and I remember going to, like, Nexus mods and stuff and trying to get, like, texture packs and, like, HDR bloom packs and, like, modding the game like crazy. Bro, the game was like a 4 gig install, but I had like 300 gigs of add-ons.
Bro, they had Patrick Stewart. I mean, like, who else can you ask for? There's a documentary, bro. It's from 2005, so go back and watch it. It's on YouTube. It's The Making of Oblivion, and it was just so cool to see. Bro, I feel like they just don't make games like they used to, man. Maybe that's a boomer take kind of thing, but I feel like the love and care and the way that it's been Starfield, say what it is. It wasn't Elder Scrolls, but all I know is, man, they nailed a remaster. It was so... There's nothing quite like Morrowind was my childhood, and then this even more so. But yeah, dude, I haven't gotten far. You know what else I realized is how much time you have as a kid. Like, I used to blow through this. I would complete the Thieves Guild in one run, and now I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go on one cave mission, get distracted, and there's 2 hours, and I'm done.
Took me 3 days to get out of the sewers, man. And then once I got out of the sewers, instead of doing the mission, I did what I always do. I'm gonna find something and go in it. Like, so I just ran and, like, found, like, something, went down.
You go to the sewer by the lake? You go in that sewer by the lake?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, of course, man.
You got to go in there. You got to go. I went in. No, dude. I started out. There's I went to the Archmage Guild in Imperial City, and she was like, "Hey, go to this." She's like, "Go to this cave for me. I have one thing to go." And I go there, and it's like, "You need to go to 12 bandit camp." I'm like, 12? Like, like it goes. That's the best part, though, man. You set on one thing, and it's just like a chain of reactions. But yeah, I started the Fighters Guild. That's where I'm at. I'm like 4 hours in, but it's it hits,
nice,
man.
Nice.
It hits hard.
Yeah, the only I've noticed like some hitching and like some like technical stuff,
little bit.
which a little bit, right? But it's still fantastic. It's like it's a really interesting, like it's super nostalgic. But like I don't know if you saw it, talking about like random games and stuff. Expedition 33.
Yeah.
If you're talking about a game that like is made with heart and soul, I'm only about 2 hours into it, but like chef's kiss. And this is the type of game like that combat like JRPG turn-based system. It's a type of like game that I have not traditionally engaged with. That is not my style.
That's my jam.
Right? Like I've never even played a Final Fantasy. Like I just haven't.
Fire Emblem was
that,
mine.
you know, exactly. Oh yeah, Fire Emblem's an example of a game I did play, like Three Houses. Like I absolutely loved it. Maybe because I'm a teacher, I don't know. But what I will tell you though is that like Expedition 33 right now, and I'm still early in it, talk about labor of love. Like I'm telling you, it actually like. People put their heart and souls into it.
Did you see anything? I don't know how we're deep now, but did you see anything on Marathon? What were your thoughts on that Bungie's new game? It looks, I'm not crazy about it.
I think it looks kind of interesting. My buddy who like is a huge Bungie fan, he's like, you have to watch the CGI movie companion that came out with it, and he linked it to me, and I haven't yet watched it, but apparently it's like an amazing, incredible CG like kind of story thing, akin to like, do you remember the original Overwatch shorts?
Oh yeah,
like even the original Overwatch trailer. I remember watching it like
Pixar, man.
When Tracer comes in with Winston
in the museum,
in
the museum,
yeah,
Doomfist's gauntlet and everything.
It's kind of reminiscent of that, I think.
Okay, yeah, I just feel like they kind of left Destiny 2, and I thought maybe they were going to do something big and bold, and it's to me it's a risk, and it's a competitive market. I'd be surprised if there's some things I wasn't crazy about, but it's alpha. You know what it is? I keep hearing it's alpha, but I remember playing Rivals Alpha. Do you remember this? We played this and we're like, dude, this game's done. Like this game's already, it's already peaked. Like it's already great. And I think alpha these days don't mean what it did back in the day a little bit more. And then, dude, you didn't play this game, but they released this game, Dragon Wilds. It's like RuneScape, but Valheim. You played Valheim, yeah?
Yeah, I played Valheim like on release. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
I think I made content for it.
Oh,
it was like I made like actual
Valheim.
YouTube videos about Valheim. I actually YouTube Gaming's Twitter retweeted one of my videos because I had like figured out a way to like get like console like hacks and stuff into Valheim, and they retweeted it.
Well, for those that don't know, I'm a diehard OSRS fan. Anyone out there, let me know your stats. I'll love you forever. Since I was a child. So this game hit it's got some tweaking to do. It's early release, kind of like Valheim when it came out. It's like, or Ark. Did you ever play Ark, the caveman dinosaur one?
Oh, yes. I know which one you're talking about. No.
Way back
so I did play that game, but the UI was so bad. I was like,
horrible.
I can't do this. I can't. It must be the worst UI I've ever had.
But it was so
new.
new.
Like, I literally cannot play this game.
The idea of it was so new. It was like Minecraft almost in its own sense, but like with dinosaurs. Speaking of, I was going to say we just got to move on. Anyway, there's just so much gamer love this week. It was like incredible. And somehow I still managed to play Snap in a hell of a lot of rivals. But anyway, buddy.
All of this was in the OTA notes, by the way. In
all
case
of it
curious.
Packed in there. Thank you, Glenn, for tucking that in there as well, buddy. I hit up Glenn this week and I was like, hey, Glenn, I've been playing more Magic. I just want you to know. And he was like, oh. I was like, yeah, I just thought I would tell you. Also, if you ever want to play. And Alex and I, we plan on playing some more ourselves. But Snap. Oh yeah, that's what we're talking about. So yeah, Infinity Ultron going 5.6, 5.8. We were talking about it. That win rate, it went from what, like 44%? Where is it at now?
Like 46. It didn't end up moving the needle much. I'm still surprised the Silver Surfer looks like one of the best places for it of all places, right? Like that still shocks me. And you made that call. It's unfortunate the card as a whole isn't landing on its feet, but it's surprisingly capable in Silver Surfer. But yeah, unfortunately, it just wasn't enough for Infinity Ultron. I think you're gonna have to see. The stones can't be an RNG festival where it's like you can't have two stones that are garbage. Like it just can't. Every no matter what variation of the stones you get, you should be able to close out the game. And I think that's what Infinity Ultron needs. So like the move stone and the you get +2 power for all the locations filled. Garbage, change them. They have to be worth pulling. It's that simple.
Agreed, man. Also, I thought it was crazy. Remember I brought up Penny Parker and I'm like, I would like to see her get a PowerPoint. Dude, remember this random one-off that I said? And you're like, I think she's fine now. I was surprised that they actually ended up giving her a little love.
I've actually been playing lots of Penny Parker. She's been making a bunch of my decks because I don't know why. I think I've fallen in love with Wiccan over the last little while. I've been playing a lot of like Wiccan ramp type shells, and Penny Parker's a nice fallback to that. You do have the consistent curve, which, you know, you can also ramp into a 5 cost if you want. But yeah, like I actually was super surprised to see Penny getting buffed everywhere, getting buffed in Rivals, getting buffed in Snap. It's kind of wild. Then we got the Rhino, which I want to say we called as well. Why, Cozy? Why do you think we called it? What was the thumbnail image of the last these cards
I'm telling
suck?
you, they just find these cards suck, and they're like, all right, put it in rotation. You know what? The title of this I suppose I should have opened with this, but OTA recap, a step in the right direction. Me and Alex called out last OTA. It was boring. The 1 power difference is not enough. We need to see more. And I will say this, whether I like some of these changes or I don't, they definitely took a bit more risks, and I like that. I like the idea of giving cards a different identity. And so Captain Carter, we saw that, and then most definitely here Rhino. Now Alex and I both agree on one thing. We were talking before: 3/3 up to a 3/6 on reveal, add a rock to your side of this location. Hey man, like I think it's a cool redesign, but we both agreed ruins should still be a thing with this thing. I like probably would be too, I guess, strong, but would it really? I don't think so.
I don't know why, and I'd be curious to know why they decided to actively remove that, because it would have seemed like more work. You already had it programmed, the card already did it anyways, so why remove it? I would have liked to have seen like 3/5 add a rock, still destroy the location. And you could have made it so once you destroyed it, the rock just popped out of the location you destroyed. It would have been perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know why they changed it this way, and but hey, I don't care. I mean, the card is obviously a 3/6 powerhouse. You don't necessarily want the rock, but there is a card that maybe we'll talk about on my side that really likes it.
There's a couple cards too that can synergize with the rock. So like, at least it's like, I don't know. I think it's a pretty cool, just big beefy body that you could play, and it definitely gives them way more purpose and way more way more playability. Fastos got his 15th buff, 3/3 to 3/4. He's getting into that. Okay, so Human Torch and Rivals got like a buff and a buff and a buff, and finally people went from F tier to S tier, and you're like, wait a second, this guy's cracked because he got like 9 buffs. Fastos is creeping towards pretty good. Like going from that 3/3 now to a 3/4 that also, even though RNG filled, now is going to continue to add way more value than just that. If you think of him in a stat perspective, he's not bad.
Fastos is pretty solid, and he has been for a while. I think what the problem with Fastos is it's like turn 3 or die with him a little bit. And I think his stats need to reflect that. The randomness of his ability is not great either. And I think, is it one of those things where the 1 drops? I can't remember, because I do play Fastos, but I've not played, because I've been playing him in Surfer, but I don't play like Nova or anything in Surfer right now. If you hit a 1 costed card with it can't go to 0. Or can it? I don't remember. I don't think so. I don't think it can, right? So Fastos can like ruin or like waste buffs on cards you're drawing, because if it can't do a -1 on a 1 cost, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Can it?
No, I don't think it can, bro. I feel like it can't.
I've only been playing him in an Eternal Surfer with Makari and stuff with no 1-drops. I'd be curious about that. But I do know that there's some awkwardness about that like RNG side of his effect, right?
Yeah, for sure. But if you play him on curve, man, you immediately have pretty good value depending on what you did hit, and you can design things around it, right? So I like what they did with him. We talked about Toxin. We talked about Sam Wilson getting a bit of a tame down as well. We've now seen a couple season pass cards get some tame in some direction. Captain Carter, though, going the right way. Sam and Iron Patriot going the wrong way. We're going to close this Snapchat with our last subject. Snap packs, are they enough? We have them coming out this week. We're going to talk about them more in detail on Alex's side. But we have not talked about them a lot over here. Alex, snap packs coming out. Now, we've kind of stated this a couple times. I think these are going to be really good for maintaining the current player base. I think that's a very important thing. But it is going to come down to marketing and making sure that the players know this. And they've teased it. They've teased, I believe, that they're going to do something upon release with the snap packs, like whether it be like people are going to get tokens for a new card, whatere it might be. We don't know exactly. But I think they need a little sizzle, a little sauce to go alongside this update to get people, you know, to re-download spin the wheel of opportunity and try to get themselves a new card to play with and see how this new acquisition works.
I agree. And I think that with Snap, they need to bring the old players back, obviously, and they need to keep the existing players. Snap is on a bit of a decline numbers-wise, but with that being said, it's still doing remarkably well. I think that we were spoiled with a game that literally took the world over.
Yeah.
In December or whenever, when it had come out originally. I remember December with the Game Awards and everything, it winning. It was absolutely peak, and the game deserved it too. Like, it was incredible. And then what happened is like, the monetization started clawing at us and hooking us a little bit. I remember we had a Snapchat conversation where like, we want to give you money. Give us a reason to give you money. Like, we want to support this game. And then they took that and they ran too far in the opposite direction with it to some degree. And so I do think that Snap Packs has to be a correction of that system. And I will tell you that based off of my interactions with the development team, which admittedly are a bit limited, I believe that they do have intentions of making this a much better system. They didn't go into this saying like, oh, let's make a system that just kind of like is more of like a facade of what people think they want, but let's still just like grab money out of them and make the acquisition impossible. I think they went into this recognizing that this was a major pain point for players, and they wanted to make it better. They wanted to make the card acquisition better, and they want to make the overall player experience more positive, even if potentially it comes at slightly less revenue, which honestly, it might be the hard decision to make, but probably the correct one. So I'm hoping that they deliver on it, Cozy, because I think the game needs it.
Yeah, so here's the good news, and this is what I agree with what you said. Snap is, I think, at a good place right now. I do think it is enough. The biggest thing that drives Marvel Snap is that first word, Marvel. Marvel Strike Force is a game that was been out for a long time, and it has a lot of staying power as well. Because the cool thing about Marvel is it's been timeless, right? And with, we have probably hit the lowest that Marvel has been in by far in a very long time. Especially since the turn of the millennia. But I feel like we've got Fantastic Four. Thunderbolts, early reviews coming in. Best movie since Endgame has been the reviews on it, okay?
Really? Okay, that's nice because it looks awesome.
Yeah, it does. It looks great. And then you've got Avengers Doomsday coming out. So you've got some big hitters. And I can tell you, certainly, this happened when Star Wars took a hiatus, and even though I wasn't craziest about the newest movies coming out, whenever I saw it, I'm like, man, I gotta dive deep back into the world of Star Wars, man. I'm hooked. Like, give me some Darth Vader right into the veins. And so when you have these movies that do this, you have Rivals. You look at terms like the Emma's Frost, depending on the reasons, but it doesn't matter. 7,000% higher than it was for its whole lifetime, right? So things go on the boom, and when you have Snap at a great game at its core, and you've got now this coming into it, it welcomes people back. Come have some fun, play, with your favorite Marvel heroes and have a good time doing it. So it's got limitless potential there. I think Ben said he wanted to make a card game, and he said no one wants to play with Laserface. I can tell you if they had a game with no IP and it was Laserface and it boomed because it was super fun, it would be dead because you don't have that kind of that reach to the IP. And so I think that's so important for the game. And so keeping it eco-friendly, keeping the player base happy, all those things are so important. And I think this does set up Snap moving forward in the right direction pretty well.
Yeah, and I think one of the challenges like the game has is that like it's just the overall monetization model of like card games and CCGs. The traditional way that they've always made money. They tried to kind of iterate on that with the collection track, which is honestly, it feels like a dinosaur at this point. Like, it feels like it doesn't really serve its true purpose anymore. Tons of filler, boosters are still in there. I don't even know why. 50 credits is barely even a reward as you're going through a track that you're spending credits to get through anyway. You're really just going for those caches, and you're going for the keys, and there's just all filler in between, right? But like, if you think about like Marvel Rivals is another great example, a game we both play. When you install Marvel Rivals for the first time, it doesn't matter what the meta is. You can play Rocket if you want to play Strategist. If Magneto's the top Vanguard, you can pick Magneto. But if Magneto's the best card in Marvel Snap and you just started playing, you don't have Magneto in your collection. If Penny Parker gets buffed in Rivals and it's the meta Vanguard, right? You can't just go into Marvel Snap and play Penny Parker. It's just the game doesn't work that way. The monetization doesn't work that way. And something tells me that Rivals is making a lot of money because it sells, skins and stuff like that. It sells season passes. But the problem with these collectible card games is the card acquisition model is the primary way that these games make their money. And so they put up these roadblocks that don't exist in Overwatch and Rivals and other stuff, right? But then again, we don't have those energy timers that piss me off in other mobile games we play. So I wonder if it's kind of a symptom of the genre that Marvel Snap.
Yeah, it's always been a mobile game first.
Kind of like figure it out.
It's always been a mobile game first. I think we, like way back when we kind of hoped when PC came out, we're like, oh, this is just the beginning. Is this gonna, and then we realized, oh, like okay, it is like this is kind of what we're getting, and what they aim for when making it, right? And that goes well beyond the player base when they pitch it to funder whatever, right? But I will say, yeah, I think. For what it is, in the genre it is, it's definitely doing just fine. I would say, going back to what I've beaten a dead horse at this point, like marketing, I think the easiest way to do it, and I've talked to another creator that I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but they have left a game per se, or they haven't been playing it so much, and that team still reaches out to them on a regular, like, hey, can we do anything for you? How are you? And the team currently on Snap has never talked to this person. And so to me, the easiest way to get marketing is to look at people that pour their blood, sweat, tears, and time into, right? And that is your creators. And I would like to see a much different front on that. I think they do a pretty good job that gets by, but we're gonna keep bringing it up now. We're almost heading into 3 years since the that's crazy, man. This game, I played this game for the first time about 3 years ago. Getting right next to that date. That's so crazy now to think about that. This year's flown by already, but yeah, man, loving to see it and excited for the future. If you guys want to know, by the way, no videos this week for me, no OTA. I had a couple things come up that I had to address. One of which, good friend Mr. Dexter said on Twitter, he got in a wreck, wanted to be there for him, help him out. Happened right at the OTA. If you're wondering where that video was, that's where it was. Never coming out. But anyway, guys, we're going to be talking about a lot on Alex's side. Strange Supreme. We're going to be talking about Snapbacks and which cards you should be aiming for. What are the best ones to get in the best packs? And then the Snapchat mailbag. We appreciate you guys, as always, coming to this side of the Snapchat. Until the next one, happy snapping.